Alright, so the Peripheral has now come to a close, giving us a strange, trippy, parallel timeline sci-fi real doll future fest. With one of the Westworld creators attached, you know it was gonna get heady. But in this video, we're gonna be discussing the ins and outs of the ending of this series, what is up with all of those bees, our predictions for what a potential season 2 might have in store, along with our general thoughts of this series as a whole. But thank you for clicking this video. I'm your sim jockey, Jared, so saddle up and let's get into the ending of the Peripheral. Now, as a brief outline of what the heck is going on in the Peripheral, here we go. So Flynn lives in 2032 North Carolina with her brother, Burton, who is ex-military, both taking care of their sick mother. Backwoods town, nothing to do. It's tough to make money because, everyone in the town is kind of in the pocket of one Corbin Pickett. Your run-of-the-mill small-town bad guy who runs it all. Anyway, to make money, Burton is a sim jockey ushering rich folk through VR. Think Ready Player One, but you know what? Ready Player One is actually a great comparison. However, Flynn is way better at the sim than Burton. She is an explorer type, trying to break the game, learning the ins and outs as she goes. Well, they get roped into a huge score of a job. Assassinations, weird robots, seduction, ripping out eyeballs, and a heist of some state-of-the-art technology mumbo-jumbo. But here is the kicker. Are you ready? Are you sitting down? Are you ready for this? The sim that they are playing is actually the real-world London, set in 2099. What in the quantum tunneling time travel great Scott is this? So, with this being realized, combined with the fact that real people were killed and something was actually stolen, all sorts of scrambles kick off. People from the future try to eliminate the pair in the past with sonic blast weapons and invisible cars. Paperboy, man, this is like Atlanta. But Flynn gains intel from the future to not only find Elita West, the missing person from the original sim, but to help her in her present time, and learns of something called the jackpot. Oh man, that sounds great. A ton of money, it's called the jackpot. Oh wow, okay, it's called the jackpot because a handful of apocalyptic disasters pile on top of one another. Like winning the jackpot. At least the future's optimistic? All of this essentially comes to a head when Flynn is targeted by the RI, or rather the Research Institute, and the head of it, Dr. Charisse Newland, aka the Queen Bee. Charisse wants Flynn dead while trying to accelerate the jackpot in her time, while Flynn is trying to understand why she wants her dead and exposing the RI with the immoral technology that they possess and what they are going to be doing with it and what they have been doing with it. Now, the ending sees Elita finally revealing herself still alive, and in removing her immunity booster, she starts remembering. The RI tech that is supposed to, quote, help them has a bit of a side effect, manipulating their memories. When her and Wolf were children, the Klept, including Lev's father, were terrified of a supposed contagion in relief camps. By the way, there was no proof of this at all, and slaughtered roughly 5 million people in a fortnight. Another reason why there are little to no people living in London. Elita's plan this whole time is to expose the RI for covering this up using the infinity in the palm of their hand technology, which is the bacterial DNA in Flynn's skull. In doing so, societal trust in both the Klept and RI will dwindle, reverting back to how humanity used to live, relying, a little bit less on the breakthroughs of the Institute. However, Elita needs Flynn. Basically, everyone is after Flynn now because of what she has in her head, and the only person that can be trusted is Inspector Lobier. Severing her stub from the future is unfortunately out of the cards, but Lobier says that she can open up a new stub. Highly unethical, but it is possible through one of the RI's, quote, stub portals. Pretty generic name, don't you think? Flynn makes her way towards a hidden stub portal, which is located right outside of a cemetery, which seems fitting for all of the deaths that were overlooked without second thought by the RI. Flynn grabs the stub portal key, which is in the form of a golden pocket watch, dispatches some periffs, and slams the watch into place, essentially in theory, allowing her to jump and create a new stub, a quote, reboot for her sim, because where she is at right now is a black hole. There is no progressing forward from there. I had this happen in Resident Evil 4, and I was not happy. Anyway, Flynn opens the stub, but in doing so destroys the pocket watch so the RI and Charisse cannot track her. They haven't a clue what stub she's going back to. They can only guess, which is a cheeky nod to the episode's title, The Creation of 1,000 Forests. Trees, branches, stubs, you get it? Back in the main stub, Flynn tells Connor to shoot her.
I am not shooting a kid.
Yeah, it seems pretty crazy, but this is the stub that everyone has been monitoring, and she must end it and in turn create a new branching path. Flynn counts down from 10, remembering memories that soon may not be the ones that she remembers, and Connor gets closure for the puppy incident from earlier and shoots Flynn dead.
You shot me, I'm dead.
This is supposed to make it look like Lowbeer sent out a hit for her and it was successful, allowing Charisse off her back, no longer asking questions about Flynn any further. Believe me, there is a lot of sci-fi mumbo-jumbo paradox stuff going through your brain right now, but the Flynn we know is gone. But a different one in a different stub, unknown from everyone except Inspector Lowbeer, is now the one to move forward with ending the RI, Elita's revolution, and the Klept, all with the help of Lowbeer as the two get to work. Symbolically, this self-sacrifice for a replacement of Flynn's self was actually hinted of the two groom toppers back in episode 1, two identical, one snapped in half, ending its journey while the other moves on. Now, you might have missed this, but surprisingly, there is a post-credit stinger after the credits of episode 8. This features Lev and Dominika Zubov, both going off to some ritzy club for lunch, only for Lev to be greeted by 3 older gentlemen, grilling him about his dealings with the RI. These are leading individuals of the Klept and friends of Lev's father. They aren't too fond of Lev trying to recruit someone from the RI. This is in reference to Charisse and her associates, and that he should tie up any loose ends, aka prune the branches in regards to the stubs. So it looks like Lev needs to deal with Charisse in some fashion, maybe even pulling another Yuri Samsonov, eliminating her from all of the stubs. But this is going to cause a multitude of problems because the 3-wall structure will cause everything to crumble inward. But Charisse has Lev's DNA from the teacup in episode 4, I believe, so any sense of wrongdoing that she maybe feels will preemptively be planned on the part of Charisse and the RI. Plus, if Lev does go through with this, does this start another jackpot? We'll talk more about that in the rest of the video, but if you're looking for a jockey, then please hit that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to join the Spoiler Sim because we're dropping some heavy breakdowns. Oh shoot, Paul's calling, gotta go. But yeah, hit the button. Okay, before we get into our Season 2 theories, we gotta talk about the bees.
Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah!
Yes, we have to, because they are everywhere. Mentioned, symbols, hell, even Flynn is dressed as one in her Halloween home video. In almost every single episode, there is something relating to bees. Episode 1 features Burton sporting a bee on his bandana. Charisse there is also said to be the queen bee at the party. The hexagons of the decor resemble honeycomb, and the metcoids, the cool looking robot dudes, well, their faces have kind of a similar structure. Episode 2 features bees on the television, stating that each individual bee has a significant role to play in serving the larger needs of the colony. They all contribute to the healthy functioning of the hive. None can survive without the help of the others. However, environmental pressures have caused their population to freefall, hinting, hint, hint, at the jackpot. Again, episode 3 has Charisse using bees as a form of entomological warfare, if you could call it that, I guess, with the beehives being also hexagonal shaped, the same design being on Charisse's dress and the teacup, even a clever transition to a bug zapper after the scene, referencing that the queen bee has got to go. Episode 4 is the Halloween home video with Flynn dressed as a little bumblebee, along with one of the environmental catastrophes of the jackpot being the extinction of bees, which in turn has a ripple effect. And episode 7 has Inspector Lowbeer referring to the Met police algorithm as the Aunties.
The Met's data sorting algorithms. Busy little bees buzzing about.
But why the bees? Sure, they are all there, but why are they in this show? Well, a couple different reasons. Again, referencing episode 2, the narrator on the television mentions workers, the drones, the queen, they all contribute to the healthy functioning of the hive, and none of them, not even the queen herself, can survive without supporting the others. This three-party cooperative structure can be likened to Cherise's three-wall house analogy back in episode 4. Whereas the queen, drones, and workers are in theory the same as the Klept, Met Police, and the Research Institute. Not identically matching how these bees function, but the Klept oligarchy used extreme violence and was able to bring order from the chaos of the jackpot. Though on the scummy side of things, they run an open hand and blind eye mentality. The Met Police keep the Klept from straying too far from certain boundaries, allowing their activities to persist. And the Research Institute benefits from the peace and prosperity that results, and provides technical assistance for the society to function and thrive, all working together, despite differences, for the betterment of the hive, or, society. But unfortunately, it is all a very, very fragile structure. At any moment, the roof, or, the three-walled house the top of the house, you don't have a house with three walls is what I'm saying, could come crashing down if something strays, resulting in essentially the end of the world. Much like our current day ecosystems, one tiny shift could result in our own jackpot, one of which scientists have kind of been talking about is the extinction of bees. One small ripple that gets bigger and bigger as the waves go outward. It is interesting because Cherise believes in this structuring, but also in the complete opposite camp when saying that the bees are ignorant, not having a clue how vulnerable they are. While she and the RI had to prevent 2 extinction-level events, interjecting that human, or rather her intervening, is the key to their survival, and that population filled back in after the long climb back up from nothingness. In a grander sense, the RI building humanity back up after the jackpot, potentially utilizing, graphene, which we're not going to get into that, but molecularly, they do have a hexagonal structure, aka honeycomb-shaped, going back to the bees. It's all connected, man. A great example of how fragile everything is the case with the meddling of Flynn that could be this tiny, tiny little thing years and years in the past that could have a huge ripple effect. Hell, she's even dressed as a bee at one point. It could be positive or negative, but with the information she possesses from the RI, in a roundabout way, nothing kind of exists without her. This is why Cherise is doing anything in her power to stop Flynn on whatever path she is on and accelerate the jackpot. Look at Flynn from every angle, because what effects does she change in 2099 society and human history in the next, 70 years? Cherise doesn't lose her place at the table, the power she has, the position and time she finds herself. Sure, stubs prevent any sort of paradox, but all of this could change with one little tiny bee.
I won't touch you.
As for where season 2 could go, it'll definitely lean into the weird sci-fi elements a bit more, because the Flynn and present that we know is no longer going to be the Flynn and present we know. You know? Basically, her surviving at the end is Lowbeer using a different stub to bring her into the fold. So these two will be working together to expose the RI in some fashion without the 3 walls crumbling down. Even though things are a bit shaky because Elita's little revolution, which was hinted all the way back at the start of the series. However, with things driving into a different stub, I'm curious how this will affect what we've actually seen, and in doing so, will we see all of these events play out again, but in dramatically different ways? Because the past has a lot of fork-in-the-road moments for characters other than Flynn. Tommy has a lot of tough decisions to make in episode 7, Jasper taking the money from Corbin, and also the phone call with his wife at the railroad tracks, Bob in the hospital thinking about who should die, and Connor rescuing the dog or not. It could be an interesting Wizard of Oz journey, but also discount what has happened so far. Now, one huge theory I have is that Lev Zubov, or the one that we've seen, is actually a peripheral. This skinwalker ain't fooling anyone, and it's because of all of these kind of small hints. First off, rich and powerful people tend to use peripherals as a safety precaution, which we see Charisse use. But also that Flynn found evidence of the Zubov family dying in a mafia hit in her time back in 2032. Sure, the mafia hit was part of Lev, killing all of himself in these different stubs, straight up Jet Li in the one style, but this would make him roughly 100-ish years old. Sure, chalk it up as some anti-aging drugs, maybe it's Maybelline, but London didn't start rebuilding until the 70s. So I'm convinced Lev and the other members of the Klept, including his father, are on life support somewhere else, but piloting these peripherals like they are youthful again. We could go one deeper, and someone else could even be piloting Lev's peripheral. Hell, what if it's actually Yuri Samsonov?
Wait a minute!
Yeah, he didn't actually get wiped out. There was one of him left, he wiped out all of Lev and his family, and then took over. I mean, a Klept would do that. I also think a majority of the people walking around London are actually peripherals, being piloted by essentially people or brains in tubes in the lower levels of the RI. We saw the RI having floors and floors of technology, and this would allow for the rich to essentially live forever. This could even explain the Zubovs, but the RI is using the technology to gain information to essentially evolve the next generation of robot-human hybrids. Because if we remember, Beatrice, essentially the taskmaster of this show, seriously, she's even watching game tape of the fights and everything, but she reveals she would pick Connor rather than Burton after the fighting exercise, despite Burton being the better, more logical pick. This tells me that she has feelings, compassion, something deep down she can't explain towards him. Something AI shouldn't, but is evolving into. I don't know, man. It sounds pretty crazy to me. Woohoo! I kinda dug the first season of The Peripheral. I mean, the sci-fi elements really drew me in during the first couple of episodes, slowly introducing these new characters, technology. The robots, the robot dudes were pretty cool, and honestly, a lot of questions. I kept asking, now, wait, how does this not change the future if Flynn does X? But the story is right there to explain those questions in a logical and meaningful way. Does it get a bit sci-fi heady with all of the names like Polt and Metcoid and Klept? Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, what the hell is going on with this? What does any of this mean? You know I don't speak Spanish. Luckily, though, I watched everything with subtitles, so we're all good. I'd say the biggest thing that interrupted the VR dream of this series was the last couple of episodes. It was leading to this grand reveal of Elita and Wilf and Lev all butting heads with Charisse and Lowbeer, but it felt rushed into an ending of, find out next week on The Peripheral. Sure, it's ripe for theories, but it seemed too fast with little explanation of how or why. Also, the top tier periffs that were guarding the RI's stub portal went out like some major chumps. I'd probably give this season a 7 out of 10 as of now. Maybe a rewatch might make things a little bit clearer, better, seem less rushed. But I really enjoyed Jack Rayner and Chloë Grace Moretz. I mean, I wouldn't mind getting a peripheral. You know what? Never mind. I'm not going to say it. But obviously, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Season 1 of The Peripheral. Did this scratch that sci-fi itch? And where do you think a potential Season 2 might go? And I'll let you know, we're currently running a competition right now, giving away 3 copies of House of Dragons Season 1 on the 15th of December. And all you gotta do to get a chance of winning this is like this video, subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment down below on The Peripheral. We pick the comments at random at the end of every single month, and last month's winners are on screen right now. So if that's you, message us on Twitter at Heavy Spoilers. If you want something else to watch, be sure to check out some of our other cool videos. This week has been packed full of trailer breakdowns, so treat yourself. With that out of the way, thank you for watching this. I've been Jared, and I'm gonna polt over to jolly old London and get some tea and scrumpets. Tip top cheerio. All right, I'll see you in the next one.